This happened just a few weeks ago. I'm 27 and took a job as a camp counselor at Camp Crescent to enjoy summer in the woods again. I wanted to relive those happy childhood memories, you know? At first, everything seemed normal. The campers were excited, and the camp felt alive. But I've never stopped thinking about what I saw that first night. The camp is deep in the forest. The cabins looked rustic, and the lake sparkled under the sun. I could hear the leaves rustling in the breeze, and it felt peaceful until night fell. That evening, I went out to gather firewood. The night was quiet, and I walked toward the tree line, trying to shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. I saw flickering lights in the trees. Maybe it was just my imagination. I figured it was an outdoor movie that I missed, so I shook off the unease and headed back to the cabin. But when I was there, those lights returned. This time, I heard soft laughter echoing through the woods. It was strange, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The next day, I spoke to some of the campers. They told me they'd seen figures dancing among the trees. I wasn't too sure what to think. Maybe it was just a game they played, or they were trying to scare me. Still, I felt unsettled. My heart raced, and I had trouble sleeping. Each night, the lights appeared again, and the laughter grew more persistent. I felt like I was being watched. I tried to brush it aside, thinking maybe I was just too wrapped up in my own head. The woods were supposed to be calming, not terrifying. But the stories my campers shared began to gnaw at me. Something felt dark buried underneath those happy childhood memories. On the sixth night, I ventured out again, drawn by the lights. I wasn't even sure why I went back. Maybe I thought I'd find out what was really going on. My heart raced as I stepped into the shadows, and the laughter became clearer. I felt cold, sharper than before, and I called out to whatever was making it. There was no answer. Then, through the branches, I saw a figure dart by. It was quick, almost elusive. I blinked, thinking maybe I imagined it. But then I heard laughter again, only now it felt closer. I turned to leave, but then someone whispered my name. I froze. There was no one there. That I don't think I could explain what happened next, but the fear I felt was real. Something pushed back against my attempts to rationalize it all. I was not alone in those woods, and I wasn't sure if I ever would be again. The shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and those lights flickered in patterns that seemed to call to me. I stepped back, wanting to run, but my feet felt heavy. As I stumbled back toward the cabin, laughter filled the air, and it echoed off the trees. It felt like I was being led deeper into the woods. I could hear whispers swirl, teasing and taunting. I didn't dare look back. I didn't want to know what was behind me. In the end, all I could do was run until I reached the safety of the cabin. But still, I felt their eyes on me, waiting. I still can't explain what happened that night, and I don't think I want to. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and anxiety. Each morning, I woke up exhausted, haunted by the laughter that echoed in my head. I tried my best to focus on the campers, engaging with them as they played games and explored the camp. Yet, my mind was elsewhere, constantly drifting back to that night that I decided to confide in one of the other counselors, Sarah. She was easy to talk to and had been at Camp Crescent longer than I had. I caught her after dinner, just before she headed to her cabin. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" I said. My voice wavered a little. "Of course," she replied. The firelight danced on her face, making her look both warm and serious. "I keep hearing laughter at night and seeing lights in the woods. Am I losing it?" She paused, her expression shifting to something more serious. "You're not the first to mention it." "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "There are stories about the camp. Old tales, about spirits that like to play tricks on people." She looked around, lowering her voice. "Most of us try to ignore them. It's just too creepy to deal with." A chill crept down my spine. I had hoped that my experiences were just imagination, but hearing Sarah's words felt like adding more weight to my already growing dread. "Have you ever seen anything?" I pressed. "Not really," she admitted, her tone dropping. "But I've heard the laughter too. My first year here, it really freaked me out. I avoid going out alone at night now." Wonderful, I thought. Just what I needed to hear. That night, I tried to go to bed early. As I lay in my cabin, the whispers returned. I covered my ears, willing myself to fall asleep. But every time I closed my eyes, the laughter rang clear and sweet, just outside my window. That I shot up, trembling. The clock read 2:04 a.m., and for some reason, I thought I heard my name again, a soft, inviting voice that seemed to beckon me outside. Fighting against the urge to listen, I grabbed my flashlight and turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness, but all I could see were the shadowy outlines of trees. Then I saw it flashes of light near the edge of the woods, dancing like fireflies. I knew I shouldn't go out there, but the pull was so strong. I needed to understand what was happening. My heart thudded in my chest as I opened the cabin door, half expecting someone to stop me, no one did. The night air was cold as I took a step outside. I followed the lights, my body moving as if it had a mind of its own. The laughter surrounded me again, but this time, it felt different. It became musical, enchanting in a way that drew me deeper into the shadows. When I saw it figures moving gracefully between the trees, lit by the glowing orbs. They looked ethereal, almost like children playing in a dream. I couldn't breathe. A mixture of fear and wonder washed over me. Suddenly, they turned their gaze toward me, and the laughter stopped. The air grew heavy. I took a step back, but my feet wouldn't move. A figure stepped forward, taking on a more defined shape, and I could feel my heart race into my throat. Something told me I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross, and I realized that whatever was happening at Camp Crescent was far beyond what I had imagined.
My breath caught in my throat as the figure approached. The faces of the children were obscured, but they radiated a strange light, their eyes reflecting an otherworldly glow. I wanted to scream, to run back to the cabin, but my body betrayed me. I stood frozen, captivated by their presence. The leading figure, a girl with flowing hair that seemed to flutter without wind, beckoned me closer with a delicate hand. "Come play with us," she sang softly, her voice like tinkling chimes. I shook my head, trying to fight the enchantment. "No, I shouldn't be here," I managed to whisper, but the words felt foreign on my tongue. The laughter returned, now a symphony that wrapped around me, pulling me deeper into the darkness. "Why are you scared?" another figure asked, her voice sweet yet laced with mischief. "We just want to have fun. You're missing out." Everything inside me screamed to run, yet a strange curiosity held me in place. What are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "We are the ones who play in the night. The stories you've heard don't tell the whole truth. We're lonely. We need friends." The girl with the flowing hair took a step closer, the glow intensifying around her. "Will you join us?" A flicker of doubt sparked within me. I recalled Sarah's warning, the way she flinched when she recounted the stories. I didn't want to become part of some twisted game. With every ounce of willpower I could muster, I spun around and bolted for the cabin, not daring to look back. So I ran. The laughter morphed into a haunting echo, following me like the wind. My heart raced, pounding in my ears as I sprinted over roots and rocks, the flashlight beam flickering wildly. I stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawing at my arms. Just when I thought I had put distance between us, I heard a voice, a softer one, yet somehow more menacing. "You shouldn't have come." I collided with the cabin door, scrambling to push it open. I barely made it inside, slamming it shut behind me. The darkness felt thick and suffocating as I leaned against the door, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The laughter faded, but the silence was worse. It was a kind of quiet that buzzed with unspoken things. I clutched the flashlight, staring out into the eerie shadows beyond the window. My mind raced with questions. Had that really just happened? I grabbed my phone, considering calling Sarah, but I hesitated. I didn't want to sound hysterical. Instead, I lay back on my bed, pulling the blanket over me as if it could protect me from whatever lurked in the night. I closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Each minute felt like an eternity. Just as I drifted into a half-sleep, I heard a soft tapping at the window. A cold rush of dread surged through me. I knew I wasn't safe yet. I had to find out what those figures wanted before it was too late. But as I opened my eyes, the door creaked slowly open, and I thought I heard the laughter again, this time mingled with whispers that called my name. The air crackled, and I felt something was very, very wrong. I had to face whatever was outside. There was no escaping it now.
I steeled myself as the door continued to creak open. My heart raced. "Hello?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. The only answer was the sound of wind rustling through the trees, but it felt like the darkness was listening. That I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the doorframe. The beam caught the edges of the opening, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw something move. A flicker of light danced just outside, almost like a child's flashlight, but I could see no one. The laughter from before bubbled back to the surface, soft but constant. It echoed around me, rising, falling, and then slipping into that eerie silence. I stepped toward the door, fighting the urge to flee. What did they want? Did they want to play? Suddenly, I remembered the stories Sarah had shared with me. The children who wandered these woods weren't just playing, they were searching for something. Something lost. But what if they were searching for me? I took a deep breath and pushed the door wider, peering out into the inky night. My flashlight revealed nothing but trees and shadows, no children, no glowing figures. Just the persistent tapping at the window behind me. The thought of turning away terrified me. I felt trapped, but I couldn't let fear paralyze me again. I stepped outside, leaving the cabin behind. The cool night air wrapped around me, but it was far from comforting. Hello? I called again, more forcefully this time. I'm not afraid of you. A stupid thing to say, I knew, but maybe it would help me face whatever was lurking. Then I saw it, a bright light flitting between the trees, moving just out of reach. It was almost beautiful, like a firefly but larger, pulsing rhythmically in the air. I felt drawn to it, my legs moving before I could think. Each step took me deeper into the woods, and I struggled to keep the flashlight steady. The light danced and spiraled, leading me on. I couldn't help but feel excitement mingling with my fear. Just as I began to think that this might not be so bad, the light suddenly flicked out, leaving me in darkness. Everything froze. The laughter was gone. The whispers became urgent, almost frantic. Come back. Stay with us. Panic surged in me. I spun around, adrenaline pumping. My flashlight beam went wild, illuminating nothing but trees. The sounds of nature fell silent, replaced by the rush of my breath and the pounding of my heart. When I saw it just at the edge of the light, a figure stood watching me. The childlike shape glowed softly, eyes like burning coals fixed directly on me. I stumbled backward, feeling my breath quicken. What do you want? I shouted into the stillness. With a sudden, jerking motion, the figure pointed deeper into the shadows. Then, it turned and glided away, its movement unnaturally smooth, leaving a shimmer of light trailing behind. A sense of urgency washed over me. I could not stay here, not if they wanted me to follow. I had to get back to the cabin. I turned to run, but before I could take a single step, the whispering chorus returned, drowning my thoughts in its haunting song. Someone or something was closing in. I stumbled backward, heart racing, my eyes darting through the thick darkness. The whispers were getting closer, almost tangible now, a breath against my neck. I had to make it back to the cabin. The door creaked open behind me, a promise of safety in the midst of fear. I turned and ran, feet pounding against the underbrush. The flashlight beam flickered, casting long shadows that twisted and curled around me. Just keep going, I whispered to myself, pushing through the trees. You can't stop now. But then, the ground shifted beneath my feet. I felt myself trip over a root, throwing me to the ground. I gasped, the breath knocked out of my lungs. I quickly scrambled to my feet, the whispers intensifying, looming larger around me. I was sure they were right behind me, chasing me, taunting me. With every ounce of strength, I dashed back towards the cabin. The beam of my flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. I cursed under my breath, panic threatening to take me over. I had to keep moving. I reached forward, fingers grazing the bark of a tree for support. My heart pounded as I felt something brush against my leg. I yelped, nearly losing my balance. Was it another figure? The glowing child? Just then, I heard a distinct giggle, echoing through the trees. It was close now, taunting. Stay with us, it mocked. Leave me alone, I shouted, voice hoarse, a tinge of desperation in my tone. I couldn't let them win. I pressed on, vision adjusting to the dim light from the stars peeking through the treetops that I could just make out the outline of the cabin through the thick shadows. I sprinted, breathless and frantic. As I burst through the door, I slammed it shut behind me, the reverberating sound offering a momentary comfort. I leaned against the door, panting, my eyes darting around the familiar interior. But then something caught my attention, a shimmer on the table. Stepping closer, I discovered a small, ornate box I had never seen before. It was painted with familiar, whimsical patterns. My heart sank. This looked just like one Sarah had shown me before, claiming it was a part of the camp's lore. The stories she told often described the box as a portal of sorts, said to be a beckoning call for lost souls that I hadn't believed her then. But suddenly, doubt crept in. I opened the box, the lid creaking unceremoniously. Inside lay a collection of tiny glowing orbs, the same color as the light I had chased earlier. A sudden chill swept through the cabin, and a thick stillness filled the air. I shut the box quickly, panic rising. Had I drawn them in? Suddenly, the whispers turned into sinister laughter, louder than before, surrounding the cabin, pressing against the walls. My heart dropped. I froze, feeling the temperature drop. That's when I heard the unmistakable sound of something scratching at the cabin window. I turned slowly, dread crawling up my spine. Something wanted in, and I was about to find out what it was. I held my breath, listening to the scratching sound. It was soft but persistent, like nails dragging across wood. I backed away from the window, suddenly feeling more exposed. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to deepen, as if they were gathering around me, anticipating my next move. That I needed to do something. I took a step toward the other side of the cabin, where the antique lantern hung on the wall. My hands fumbled with the switch, desperate for light. As the soft glow filled the space, I felt a flicker of hope. The laughter faded slightly, but was still there, echoing on the edges of my mind. Then came another sound, soft, hesitant footsteps approaching the door. I clutched the lantern tightly, my knuckles turning white. "Who is there?" I called out, my voice wavering. The door creaked, rattling as if something outside was testing the latch. "Stay away," I shouted, though fear coiled tighter around my throat. I pressed my back against the opposite wall, clinging to the lantern while my heart raced. The scratching stopped, replaced by a soft tapping, like a child's gentle knock. "Let us in," a voice whispered, sweet yet distorted. It twisted through the air, making my skin crawl. A chill raced down my spine as I took a hesitant step toward the door. My curiosity warred with my instinct to run. Maybe it was the glowing child, the one from my nightmares. "Sarah," I yelled, knowing I shouldn't, but hoping she would somehow respond. No answer came, just the soft rustle of something moving outside. That's when I noticed the window again, the glass fogged over. I stepped closer, the lantern offering a shaky illumination. I could barely make out a small shape outside, just beyond the glass. My heart leaped into my throat as I strained to see it clearly. In the fleeting light, I saw the outline of a figure, a child. But there was something unsettling about the way the shadows danced around them, bending the light. And then they grinned at me, a wide, unnatural smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Come play with us," the child said, voice dripping with malice. "We've been waiting." I jerked back, the lantern nearly slipping from my grip. There was no time for hesitation. I had to figure out how to escape this nightmare. I dashed toward the back of the cabin, looking for a window or an exit. The whispers crescendoed, clawing at me, trying to pull me back toward the door. Suddenly, the lantern flickered, dimming, making everything feel impossibly dark again. I had to get away from the door. As the light waned, shadows leaped toward me, dark tendrils stretching as if eager to snatch me up. In my frantic search, I stumbled over a chair, sending it crashing to the ground. The noise echoed through the cabin, and for a heartbeat, everything went silent. My breath quickened, and I dared to glance back at the door. I could hear something moving inside, something heavy. That's when I saw it, an outline shifting just outside the door. I froze, ice spreading through my veins. Whatever it was wasn't just waiting. It was preparing to come through. I could feel it, a pressure building in the air. Fear surged through me. The only thought that cut through the panic was that I had to find a way out before it was too late. I bolted toward the far wall, my heart racing like a wild drum. There had to be another way out. I glanced around the cabin, searching for anything I could use. My mind was fuzzed with fear, but I forced it to focus. Think. My eyes landed on a small window near the back. It was old and cracked, but it might be my only chance. I dashed toward it, each step echoing like thunder in my ears. Just as I reached out to push the latch, the door creaked ominously behind me, and I whipped around to see a shadow slip through the crack, a mass of darkness writhing like smoke. "Let us in," the voice sang again, closer this time, now layered with a chilling harmony. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I turned back to the window, hands trembling as I fumbled with the latch. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices, all pleading, all demanding. "Play with us, it'll be fun. We're just children." My determination wavered. Was it really just children outside? I couldn't trust it. Not now that I finally managed to free the latch and shove the window upward. The wood creaked in protest, and the damp air rushed in, carrying a musty scent. I glanced back, panic rising once more. The darkness behind me seemed to stretch, twisting like fingers reaching for my back. Without thinking, I climbed onto the wooden sill, trying to squeeze through as quietly as I could. My heart pounded so loudly I worried they could hear it over the whispers growing closer. Just as I made it halfway out, I heard a loud bang, the door slamming open. "Play with us." The voices were urgent now, filled with childish glee and something darker that made me shudder. I pushed myself through and dropped out of the window, landing hard on the damp ground outside. Pain shot through my legs, but there was no time to dwell on it. I rolled to my feet and started running into the thick woods flanking the cabin, where the canopy of trees swallowed the remaining light. Branches snagged at my clothes and scratched my skin as I fought against the underbrush, adrenaline coursing through me. I glanced back just in time to see a small figure in a white dress standing in the window, still grinning, watching me dash into the shadows. The whispers echoed behind me. Now a chorus of children's laughter mingled with cries that felt distinctly threatening. I had to keep moving. My lungs burned, and I stumbled over roots and rocks, but I pressed on. When I spotted a flicker of light deeper in the woods. Was it hope? I squinted, feeling a pull toward it. Maybe it was another cabin or a campfire. It felt safer than the darkness closing in. I turned and headed toward it, ignoring the whispers now replaced by a new sound, a low humming that thrummed through the trees. The beam of light grew brighter as I approached, revealing a clearing. But something wasn't right. The shadows were moving unnaturally, and when I saw its strange figures dancing in the light. Their faces twisted into those same malevolent grins I had come to dread. That I stopped in my tracks, the weight of dread settling heavily in my stomach. Whatever this place was, it might be worse than the cabin. I could feel it. I just didn't know what it wanted. Then, just as I was about to turn and run back into the trees, I heard the laughter again. This time I felt it, a cold breath against my neck. I turned slowly, dreading what I knew I would find, and ran straight into the waiting shadows. My heart raced as the shadows enveloped me, pulling me deeper into their cold grasp. My instincts screamed at me to escape, to break free. I stumbled backward, tripping over a gnarled root, and fell hard against the damp earth. In the chaotic swirl of darkness, I caught glimpses of the figures. They swayed to an eerie rhythm, their eyes glinting like small lanterns, flickering with intent. The laughter echoed around me, filling my ears, drowning out my frantic thoughts. I scrambled to my feet, every instinct urging me to run. But where? The clearing felt like a trap, the only light a lure. I glanced around frantically, searching for any escape. My eyes darted to the edges of the clearing where the trees seemed to whisper secrets. The silhouettes still danced, and I realized they were drawing closer, their movements wild and erratic. Suddenly, I noticed something odd, a path to my right. It wasn't clear or well-trodden, but it appeared to lead further into the woods. I hesitated, knowing the figures were now directly in my line of sight. But standing still would mean getting caught. I took a deep breath and bolted towards the path. I sprinted past the creeping shadows, my blood pounding in my ears. Every second felt like an eternity, my pulse echoing the hum that once again filled the air. I could feel their laughter shifting into something sharper, something hungry. I raced down the narrow trail, fear propelling me forward. The moon barely illuminated my way, and branches snatched at my clothes like the fingers of the shadows behind me. I didn't dare look back. As I pushed deeper into the forest, the humming grew louder, wrapping around me like a shroud. The trees began to thin, revealing a faint light ahead. I squinted, hoping it was a way out. I was desperate now. I had to find safety, but as I neared the light, dread pooled in my stomach. The ground sloped downward, leading into a small valley. In the center stood an old oak tree, massive and twisted, with a hollow trunk that glowed from within. I hesitated. What kind of light came from a tree like that? It felt unnatural, almost beckoning, And that's when I heard a soft voice, sweet and melodic, whispering from the hollow. Come closer, we want to show you. The words wrapped around me, tempting me with curiosity. I felt a pull, like a child drawn to a candy shop. But somewhere, deep down, alarm bells were ringing. Suddenly, the shadows from a distance surged forward, and I realized they were no longer just figures. They were shapes merging together, coalescing, forming forms that looked disturbingly human. I stumbled back. Whatever enchanted lure the tree held was now eclipsed by the swiftly closing darkness. I turned on my heels, my breath hitching in my throat. My only focus was escape. Just as I darted toward the tree line again, I heard the laughter erupt once more, this time rising in pitch, a haunting cacophony that promised chaos. That's when everything went dark. I woke up laying on the cold forest floor, damp leaves sticking to my skin. The sound of laughter had vanished, leaving only silence. My heart pounded in my chest. I blinked against the moonlight filtering through the trees, disoriented. What had happened? Rolling over, I tried to find my bearings. The strange oak tree loomed nearby, its hollow trunk dark and intimidating. But the glow was gone, leaving just the tree's gnarled silhouette. I couldn't shake the feeling that something crucial had happened while I was unconscious. Pushing myself up, I brushed off the leaves and scanned my surroundings. I wasn't alone. Footsteps crackled behind me. My stomach dropped. I spun around, but there was only darkness. The path I had taken was inviting, but reminded me of danger. I had to make a choice, stay here or risk going deeper into the forest. Just as I decided, I felt a shiver run down my spine. The shadows stirred again, but this time they didn't have the same chaotic energy. They moved slowly, deliberately, like predators stalking their prey. I froze, trapped in their gaze. Then I saw its shadowy figures emerging from the trees. They moved like wisps of smoke, features indistinguishable but unmistakably human in form. Panic rose within me. I took a step back, searching for any means of escape. That's when I spotted a small glimmer by the base of the oak tree. Curiosity battled with instinct. Focusing on the light, I crept closer. It flickered like a star in the dead of night. As I got closer, I realized it was a small object partially buried in the earth. I knelt to grab it, hoping it would be something useful. My fingers brushed against the cool surface, and I pulled out a metal pendant. It was a small engraved compass, the needle barely moving. I felt a strange connection to it, as though it were whispering secrets of the woods to me. Maybe it wasn't just a coincidence. It could guide me back to safety. But the shadows were drawing closer, their movements quickening. I could feel their presence close, a dark cloud ready to swallow me whole. With the pendant clutched tightly in my hand, I turned to run, knowing the oak was no longer a sanctuary but a danger. As I dashed back towards the narrow path, I heard the echoes of familiar laughter, but this time it was different, taunting and laced with malice. Urgency fueled my speed. I had to escape before they caught up to me. The trees blurred as I raced past, branches slashing at my skin. The light began to fade behind me, and I could feel the shadows creeping. That's when I noticed the path splitting. Two options lay before me. One veered left into deeper darkness, while the other led towards a flickering light in the distance. That I hesitated just for a moment, then I dashed toward the light, convinced it was my way out. But as I grew closer, I realized it was nothing compared to what waited behind me. Something emerged from the shadows, blocking my path. The monstrous figure stood at the edge of the clearing, a towering darkness crowned with the glimmer of wide, malevolent eyes. My throat constricted, and I took a shaky step back, feeling the patch of damp earth shift beneath my feet. No, I muttered, scrambling frantically to regain composure. I couldn't let it capture me. I had survived this long. The laughter, once sweet and tempting, turned harsh and mocking, echoing around me. You can't run forever, the voice taunted, layered with countless whispers. I pivoted to escape, but found the shadows were everywhere, engulfing me with their clamoring presence. Stay with us, they called in unison, chilling me to the bone. It felt like they were inching closer, their dark tendrils brushing against my skin. Out of pure desperation, I tightened my grip on the compass pendant, its trembling needle a compass of hope. Show me the way, I shouted at it, though I wasn't sure how much comfort that brought. The radiance inside pulsed like a heartbeat, urging me forward. I swiveled towards the left path, hoping that the flickering light would lead me to freedom. I surged ahead, breaking through the overgrown foliage. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm, a reminder that I still lived, still fought. In the distance, I could make out the outline of a cabin, faint but discernible, pulsing like a beacon in the consuming dark. Just as I made my way through the dense thicket, I felt a gust of wind. It swept past me with cold fingers, and I glanced back. The shadows had retreated momentarily, forming a wall at the old oak tree. They were regrouping, but their laughter echoed faintly, promising they weren't done with me yet. With renewed fervor, I dashed toward the cabin. My legs burned, but I refused to slow down. I reached the door, tugging on it vigorously. To my relief, it creaked open, inviting me into its familiar embrace. I bolted inside, slamming it shut behind me, and pressed my back against it as if that would somehow keep the darkness at bay. Gasping for breath, I turned to reassess my surroundings. The cabin felt so much smaller now, the walls looming like sentinels as the warmth of the lantern flickered weakly against the encroaching dark. My mind raced, still reeling from the chase. I needed to fortify myself against whatever was coming. The laughter outside intensified into a chorus. It sent shivers through me, but I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to focus. I scanned the cabin, searching for something, anything, that could help. The small box Sarah had shown me lay in the corner, seemingly untouched. My decision was made in an instant. I rushed to it, my pulse thrumming like war drums, fearful the shadows would break in any second that I lifted the lid, revealing the glowing orbs. Hesitation flickered in my mind, but instinct took over. I grabbed one, feeling its warmth radiate through my palm. Just then, a loud crash against the door sent me reeling back. They were coming. I hurled the orb toward the door, and upon impact, a brilliant flash of light erupted, spilling across the cabin. The laughter outside warped into shrieks, and the shadows hesitated, retreating momentarily from the light. My heart leapt as I realized that I could control this, that maybe I had the power to drive them away. Without time to waste, I grabbed another orb, feeling my courage surge within. I stepped toward the door, knowing I had to act fast. "Stay away," I shouted defiantly, hurling the second orb against the door. The moment it shattered, a wave of blinding light erupted, illuminating every inch of the cabin. I could see the shadows recoiling, fractured by the brilliance, their forms twisting in protest. The lantern sputtered as I caught sight of their wide, horrified eyes. They lashed back, curling and twisting with anger, but their laughter had subsided. I knew I could send more orbs to keep pushing them away, but part of me felt the need to escape not just from the shadows, but from this camp entirely. "This is not your home anymore," I cried, empowered by the connection I felt to the orbs. With a final roar, I flung open the door, light spilling into the depths of the forest. I stepped out into the cool night, charging away from the cabin, the comforting glow of the orbs lending me strength. As I ran, I looked back to see the last shadows shriek and dissolve into nothingness, swallowed by the brilliance. But even as my pulse slowed, my heart still racing with adrenaline, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't truly over. The forest loomed large, trees whispering secrets, shadows alive as they swayed in the breeze. I pressed on, determined to break free from the grip of Camp Crescent. The memories of laughter now twisted into something sinister. Days later, as I drove away from the camp, I glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see them watching. But all I saw was the dark expanse of forest receding behind me. I didn't know if any of it had been real or just a manifestation of fear. Regardless, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest still held secrets of children lost to the woods and the laughter that echoed in the night. Would they ever let me truly forget? Would they ever let anyone go? As I sped down the road, I realized I needed to leave it all behind, but knew some memories lingered longer than I hoped. Would I return? Did I really want to? I sighed, uncertainty creeping back, leaving a lingering shadow over my heart. I moved away from Camp Crescent, but the experience left an indelible mark. Some questions would remain unanswered, lost somewhere in the whispering trees.